It's not working.
All right. Okay. Is your name Ron? Okay. We're going to give Ron. Ron's the head of Indivisible, so Ron can just salute. You're not? You have your card says. Okay. I'm sorry. I was trying to give you a compliment. Okay. What were you saying? I'll repeat it. Go ahead.
The Republican Congress had 6 years in which they tried to repeal Obamacare approximately 54 times. Assuming that you had been able to repeal it, you had nothing to replace it with. Why are you trying to repeal something for 6 years without having anything to replace it with? And now that you have a president who's on your side, you still don't have anything to replace it with. Why don't you just stop talking about repealing it and talk about fixing it?
I think that, Ron, because that we've taken this long in the first, part of this administration and have not proposed the repeal. We can do repeal with 51 votes in the Senate. We can do it tomorrow. The reason we're not doing it is because we are trying to get it right. You have... Maybe you're right about that. Maybe you're right about that. But to do any of the things that we're talking about, thinking that we think is a better way, we need 60. We can repeal with 51 votes, but to replace, we need 60. So clearly, we're not there yet. And we're not there with the Northeastern Republicans that might be a little bit more moderate versus the Southeastern Republicans that might be a little more conservative. We are not to the point where we think that we can pass what we believe is better. Now, let me just say this, and this I believe to be fundamentally true, and if you don't, then we're just going to have to disagree. Obamacare is failing under its own weight. Come on, guys, listen. Let me finish. In 6 of my 9 counties, we are down to 1 provider. That's 1 government-mandated, 1 provider in 6 of my 9 counties, and in many states across this country, they're down to 1 provider. So you have government... Let me finish. Guys, let me finish. In these states where there's 1 provider for government-mandated health care, there is no competition. When you have 1 person doing it, they can charge whatever they want. There's no competition. There's limited access. There's limited motivations for kids to even want to go to medical school because you're down to basically the nitty-gritty. And so we need more access, more competition, so prices can go down, and more affordable prescription drugs. And we need to have a system that covers pre-existing conditions, that allows kids that might be under their parents' plan to stay until they're 26. All of these are ideas, but none of them have been agreed upon yet, and we don't have an agreement yet. And we're not doing anything, Ron, until we do. But listen, my dad asked me, and I asked this to the speaker. My dad is extremely conservative, so you'll excuse the sort of snarkiness of this comment. He says, Obamacare is failing. Wouldn't it look better for the Republicans if we just let it fail? Okay? And I said this was my answer to him. I'm just like, Dad, I had this exact conversation with our speaker. And our speaker, whether you think this is Pollyannish or not, said this just to me. He said, that's not what we're hired to do. That's not governing. Our job is to fix the broken healthcare system. Exactly. Listen. Obamacare is about this high in sack of paper. There is no way that you're going to fix it. There's things in it that we should keep.
Single payer.
Because Obamacare is a failure. Obamacare is a failure. Look. Ethan.
Thank you again. Can you hold it close for having this town meeting? It's for us. It's really at the heart of democracy, and we really appreciate it. In today's Herald Tribune, that's today, there's an article from the Associated Press about a recent survey that shows 7 out of every 10 people in America feel that we're losing our identity as a welcoming and open nation. And this conclusion is related to the increased polarization of political parties and ideologies. Now, a number of similar polls show the growing mistrust of Congress itself and other public institutions, even like our police, courts, and sometimes even our religious institutions. My question is there anything that we, as voting Americans, and you as our representative, can do about this growing phenomenon that is eroding the very trust that makes our life together as a society possible and functional?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's absolutely right. Whether you're Republican or Democrat or conservative or liberal, I think that everything you just said there is true. And I think that it makes it extremely difficult to want to, a lot of people think that being a member of Congress is somehow us riding around in limos and I'm not looking for sympathy, but I think that trying to set an example and doing what you think is right. If you're talking about us as an institution in Congress, yeah, our approval rating is below Fidel Castro's, and he's dead. So it's not anything. I will say this: there is a phenomenon that we do in Congress that drives me crazy, and that's this sort of like self-deprecating. We shouldn't allow congressmen to do X, Y, and Z because we should be self-punishing because we're bad. We see that our approval rating is bad, and therefore we are going to exacerbate that by echoing that somehow in law. And I'll give you a perfect example. And this is something that we talk about a lot in this area of my district, and that's earmarks. And we stopped doing earmarks when in my second term because there were a lot of bad apples. By a lot, I mean like 5 to 10 people that were doing things wrong. They were giving earmarks to private companies, and then those companies would be hosting fundraisers for them and giving them a kickback in that regard. And so we stopped doing earmarks because we said we, as your elected official, cannot control ourselves. So the first 2 years, if Minnesota Key was losing sand on their beach and needed the Army Corps to come in to re-nourish the beach so the buildings wouldn't fall into the Gulf, I could tell the Army Corps, you need to do this and it needs to start tomorrow. Some of you may have been at our town hall in Minnesota Key when we were talking about beach renourishment, and the Army Corps was there and they said that we're going to start a 3-year study. This is a place where buildings are falling into the Gulf. I don't think a 3-year study is going to make those people happy. So why can't I, as your elected official, you all pay tax dollars to the federal government. You send me, I'm sure most of you voted for me, you send me, hold on. You send me to Washington to represent you. And part of that representation is to say, hey, my condo is falling into the ocean, or River Road is too narrow, or whatever. We need this fixed. And so I say, okay, you guys pay your federal tax dollars. You send me up to Washington. Now it's my job to bring those federal tax dollars back to you. That's how it's supposed to work. The founding fathers said that, yes, they do. and the what'd you say? Okay, guys, let me finish the question. The Founding Fathers put specifically in the Constitution that the Congress shall appropriate funds and collect taxes. So literally, the only two things that they say, the committees that Congress should be doing is collecting taxes and spending them back out. And then they specifically enumerate in Article 1, Section 8 what those things are supposed to be, like raising, supporting the navies and the post office and armies and stuff like that. So my point is this, is that if we keep going down that road, that it looks good for us to self-deprecate or to not allow us to represent you. Why? Because I can say to you when I'm running for re-election, I don't take earmarks. Aren't I great? And you're like, yeah, because that's going to help with spending, right? Well, guess what? The piece of the pie that talks about annual spending is very minuscule, and it still gets spent by the executive branch, whether it's Obama or Trump or Bush or Clinton, whoever. They still spend that money. We haven't shrunk the pie. We're not spending less. The people that are deciding whether or not Minnesota Key gets renourished or River Road gets widened is some career Washington bureaucrat that is not accountable to you. I can only ask them to do this for you, and they can tell me to go jump in the Gulf. So this is a kind of an example of how we, for the sake of getting reelected, make ourselves look bad to say that, hey, we're not that bad, we're not even allowed to do earmarks anymore, but the people that really get hurt by doing this stuff is you. Go ahead.
Sir, I appreciate that, but the mistrust that's growing in our country is not due to earmarks. That's
part of it. It was a big deal 8 years ago.
Well, it is, but we now have an administration that is using alternative facts that exaggerates that we don't
know. Listen.
Yeah, we are.
You know, I think that President Trump has been in office for a little over a month. He hasn't?
Feels like 8 years.
The difference between being in Washington, D.C. and reading the newspaper and being down here and listening to people is like night and day. I think that you just need to give this guy a chance.
Trump! No!
So we want Trump to fail, right? He's your president.
Your president! That was his first big mistake.
All right. Listen. Calm down. I think you should give him more than a month. Listen, he was elected president of the United States. He's been in office a month. The news media literally makes everything this guy does sound like it's the end of the world. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you not see that every week something comes up where the people on TV are like, this is going to be the end of Trump. I can't believe he did this. And literally, it's an impeachable offense, and the next week, they're on to something else. So, what's it was it not impeachable?
The Republicans control Congress.
We throw words around like impeachment after 30 days the same way they talked about President Obama, and it doesn't help.
Tax returns.
Russia! Russia.
Okay, I think we got our next question. Hold on. Obviously, I have to talk about Russia real quick. Unless you were going to ask about that. Okay. Just stand by. I'm going to right now. So I sit on the Intelligence Committee, which it's extremely sought after position, and we hear all of our country's secrets, and we get briefed on a daily basis by people like James Comey of the FBI on things like Russia, and everything that I believe from the briefings that I've gotten are that we have zero evidence that the Russian government and the Trump campaign coordinated in any way. This is according to all the evidence that we have. And the question that I ask you is that if you think that, do you know what RT is?
Yes.
What? Russian television, which is on most of your cable boxes. If you think, and if you watch Russian television for an hour, 55 minutes of it might be legitimate news, and there might be 5 minutes of it that's propaganda against America that is very, very well done on an intelligence level. But listen, if you think that from now on in the future, whether it's Russia or China or North Korea or whoever our enemies are, if you don't think that they're trying to influence our elections by propaganda, you are sadly mistaken. The only thing that we can do in the information age, the only thing that we can do, and this is what I ask Comey every time he testifies before our committee, is do we have any evidence that the Russians or anybody has actually hacked into our machines in each individual precinct? The answer to that is no, not at this time.
Not the only question about Russia.
You're relevant.
Listen, Russian propaganda in our elections is going to be with us until the day that we die. She asks without raising her hand about a nonpartisan investigation. Or a prosecutor to prosecute a crime. You're going to love this answer, but my job on the Intelligence Committee is to investigate these exact issues. And I am on this committee to do the investigation with having... I'm trying to do my job. By being on this committee, it's actually the committee that's supposed to be investigating what you're asking about. If I felt like at any time that and by the way, the Intelligence Committee, there's no cameras, nothing is reported on it. We're not allowed to talk about what we do down there. It's about 5 floors underground, and I have to use my fingerprint to get in the door that's about this thick. And we hear from our spies and from the FBI about all the things that we're doing. And they're nonpartisan, or supposed to be nonpartisan, and our chairman, who's a Republican, and the ranking member, who's a Democrat, 99% of the time get along fine. Now, there are cracks, and there are some times where they disagree, but this is not the committee where partisanship is supposed to come out, and it usually doesn't. So let us do our job before you say you're going to get an independent counselor or investigator who's one person. You remember how some people felt about Ken Starr. You're going to get one person rather than a bipartisan committee. There's like 20 of us on this committee. And we are going to go through the evidence and find out where it follows. Listen, I am the one. There's like 4 members of Congress that are Republican that are on a bill that says that no Russian sanctions shall be lifted until Congress approves of it. I'm one of 4 Republicans. Why do I feel that way? Because I believe that Vladimir Putin is a really bad guy. I think he's a bad actor. And I don't think that we should be cozying up. We've tried this. President Bush looked into his eyes. President Obama said he'd have a little bit more flexibility after the election. We try this. Hillary Clinton had the reset button. We try this every 4 years. And every 4 years, Putin breaks our heart. It'd be great. Listen, it would be great if the United States and Russia could go through a phase where we got along. But that is not what Putin is trying to do. Putin wants to return Russia to the USSR. All you have to do is go ask the former Eastern Bloc countries and countries like Georgia and Estonia, which I visited, which have statues of Ronald Reagan in their country. And I'm telling you because you asked me the question and you're my constituents. I signed onto a bill to try to make sure that we don't get too cozy with Russians too fast. And I think that what bills I sponsor, by and large, speak to the way I feel. But with regard to this idea that there was coordination between Moscow and the Trump campaign, there is no evidence. That is what she asked. We'll get more Russia as we go.
Thank you for coming here today. Will you promise not to vote for any measure that lowers current Social Security payments to those receiving Social Security? And in connection with that, will you consider raising the current wage cap of $127,000 for withholding Social Security?
Yeah.
This isn't going to be a good one either. You said current, and so I think that that's the key.
No.
20 months till my re-election. Yes. Are you going to run against me? Come on.
New leaders are being born every day now.
All right. The question is with regard to Social Security and whether or not I am going to adjust the payments or up or down for payments for current recipients. Okay. I think that with this, I think that we've been pretty clear on our side of the aisle that we believe that people that are over 55, nothing should happen different. And the people that are under 55, like myself, unless, I'm 46 years old, there's not going to be Social Security for me when I get to the age of retirement. Can I answer the first question?
Well, you can have a hell of a
No, he asked two questions. And I believe that if you all want your children and grandchildren to have the same retirement entitlements, I know a lot of people don't like that word, but
No, we don't.
that you have, that listen, things cannot stay the status quo in this country with the way things are working with Social Security and Medicare. They can't. If you think that in 20 years Medicare and Social Security are going to encompass 100% of our budget, you would be correct, according to every economic study out there. When people tell you that there's nothing wrong with Social Security or Medicare and that they're totally sustainable forever and ever, amen, they're lying to you. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, if you hate my guts or if you voted for me. I am telling you the truth. If we do not fix our retirement programs now, and has nothing to do with people over 55. If we don't fix them now, I'm not getting Social Security. Be sure, you know what, not getting anything. And so we owe it to future generations to make sure, that's why we're sent to Washington, to make change and make a difference so that those type of things that we all enjoy, or some of you all enjoy, are also enjoyed by future generations. Do you not want that for your kids and grandchildren? Are you kidding yourself to think that it's fine, that it can't? I think that it all has to be done in a one at one time. Well, okay, I will consider that, but I'll also tell you this.
question is, eliminating
Mike for him.
I'll say it.
eliminating the cap on Social
And this is
Security
his second
will make
question.
Social Security solvent for the extended time period. By all you have to do is eliminate the cap. Okay, eliminating the cap doesn't hurt.
Come on, Ron.
Eliminating the cap does not hurt anyone,
I said-
and it will help.
I said I would think about it. Look, a lot of because I might not agree with what you just said. I will look into it. I will look into it the way that you just proposed it. I'll also tell you this. I think that people that are at the upper end of the economic spectrum, some of you will love this. I think that people like my dad, who qualify for Medicare when he gets to be a certain age, it should be means tested. So people that don't need it, aren't draining the rest of the people that don't have it. But we're going to have to do things to address our Social Security and Medicare, and it's not going to have any effect on people that are over 55. And I know that this was the third rail. We weren't even allowed to talk about this when I first got elected, especially in Florida. So there is no political upside for me to tell you that I think that if we don't change something now, in 15 to 20 years, there is no budget for the military, which maybe is good for some of you. There is no budget for roads or their infrastructure or anything. It's all Social Security and Medicare. We've seen this happen in other countries. We're starting to see this happen in some of our cities and states. It is going to bankrupt us. And if you don't think that that's true, then we are listening to the two totally different people. Ethan.